Welcome to Math Enhancement, and our first section is indeed Algebra, and for today, we are going to study special products and factoring. Okay, so the contents of this presentation is number one, we're going to discuss first the special products. In a way, it will help us to identify the different methods we're going to use when we factor out expressions. Okay, so algebraic manipulation is very important for us to be able to simplify our functions, equations, or models. So a part of simplifying expressions would be factoring and special products. So for our first topic, which is special products, let's start with the first special product, which is the square of a binomial. So if you have a binomial x plus y, that's two terms, okay, added together, and then you square that binomial. To expand it, that would be equivalent to x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. Okay, so let me show you that this particular special product, okay, it can be solved by simply doing FOIL method. Okay, so let me write here special products. And then number one to our special product would be square of a binomial. Kapag nagsisquare tayo ng binomial, given that you have x plus y quantity squared, okay, this is simply equivalent to multiplying x plus y to itself. So you have there x plus y multiplied by x plus y. And as you notice, pwede natin siyang i-FOIL method, diba? First, out, inner, and then last terms. And if you do that, that will result to, you will have x squared, okay, plus xy for the last terms, for this one. And then for the inner terms, you have yx. We can rearrange that. So that would be similar to xy. And then the last terms would be y squared. And if you simplify that, you will get x plus y quantity squared equivalent to x squared. We can simplify these two terms as 2xy plus y squared. That's the reason why special product siya, kasi we are able to find out that there's a pattern that can be followed, diba? There's a pattern that can be followed, and that is if you have x plus y quantity squared, if you're squaring a binomial, that would be equivalent to squaring the first term. So ito muna, squaring the first term, that's x squared, plus twice, so times 2 nung product ng first and second terms. So first term times second term multiplied by 2, so you have 2xy. And then lastly, you square the second term. And if you have a difference of binomial, difference of two terms squared, ang magiging iba lang dun sa formula natin is yung middle term mo will get or will attain a negative sign. So ang magiging itsura nito would be x squared minus 2xy plus y squared. So the result of a square of a binomial is known to be the perfect square trinomial. So a trinomial is known to be perfect square if you can represent or present them as a square of a binomial. So kung kaya mo siyang pabalikin, halimbawa you are given this trinomial at mapapabalik mo siya in such a way it is a square of a binomial, then it is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, at lahat ng squares of binomials will result to perfect square trinomials. Okay, so let's try the examples. So number one, wait, I should change this to A na lang. Okay. And then I will have number one as an example. Let me zoom this in. You have there a cubed minus 5 quantity squared. So ang sabi sa atin is take the first term, that's a cubed. Tapos square mo daw si first term, 'di ba? Square the first term. Okay? If this is minus, if this one's minus, then the sign would be negative also. So let's write down negative 2 times product of the first term. So our first term is a cubed times the second term. Your second term is 5. Okay? Plus the second term, your second term is 5. Hindi kasali yung negative sign. Okay? So you'll have 5 and then square the second term. Okay, and then simplify this. So, that will give you a raised to 6, diba? By laws of exponents, we multiply 3 times 2. Minus, you have 2 times 5, that's 10. A cube plus 25. And this gives you our answer. So, this is your perfect square trinomial. Which means, kung papabalikin mo naman siya, edi, ang tatandaan mo na lang dyan is, ayan, square root mo yung first term, kasi doon tayo nanggaling that would be a cube. Square root mo yung second term, that would be 5. And then, yun, use the sign of the middle term. Okay, and of course, by checking, you should check na kapag times 2 ba yung product ng makukuha mong first and second term, dapat lalabas yung middle term natin. Just to be sure that the expression you're working with is a square of a binomial or is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, let's continue. Number 2, you have there 5x cubed minus 9y to the fourth quantity squared. Same process. Diba? Get the first term, that's 5x cubed. Square mo yon. Minus 2 times, kunin mo yung first term, that's 5x cubed. Times, kunin mo yung second term, di kasali ang sign, 9y to the fourth. Okay, and then plus, kunin mo ulit yung second term without the sign, so that's 9y to the fourth. And then you square that. So, lahat ng nasa loob is square natin. So, that means, in the first term, you have 5 squared, that's 25. Okay, x cubed squared, that would be x raised to 6. Minus, you have 2 times 5 times 9, so that would be 90. Okay, so you have 90 x cubed, y to the fourth, and then last term you have, yan, 9y to the fourth squared, so that gives you positive 81 for 9 squared. Y to the fourth squared is y raised to 8, so we simply multiply the exponent. Okay, let's proceed to number 3. Pwede ring fraction yung terms sa loob. So, you have there 4x raised to 6 all over as y to the 5th minus 7a cubed. The quantity is squared. So, writing our solution for this, let me write it below para magkasya. Your first term is 4x to the 6th over y to the 5th quantity squared. Minus ulit kasi minus negative sign yung yung operation natin or subtraction tayo. So, minus pa rin, minus 2 multiplied by the first term. So, that's 4x to the 6 over y to the 5th multiplied by 7a cubed. Okay? Plus, your second term which is 7a cubed and then 7a cubed and then square that. Okay? Tapos, simplify na lang yung sunod natin. So, you have a 4 squared, that's 16. X to the 6 squared, ito, x to the 6 squared, so multiply natin exponents niyan, you get x raised to 12 all over y raised to 10 because 5 times 2. Okay, minus, you get there 2 times 4, that's 8 times 7, so you get 56. So 56, and then you have x to the 6th, a cube all over y to the 5th. Pwede nyo unahin yung a kesa sa x, kaya ang bahala. That doesn't matter. Commutative naman sa multiplication. So, plus 49 for 7 squared, a raised to 6. So, this will be our answer for the third example. Okay? Yan. So, moving on to the next type of special product, we have letter B. Okay, letter B. This is the product of sum and difference. Sum and difference of two same terms. Oh, okay. Of the same two terms pala. Of the same two terms. Okay. So, ang ibig sabihin nito is, parehas yung binomial natin. Parehas ang itsura niya. Okay. You have the exactly the same first two terms. So, first term and second term are similar. Imumultiply natin sila sa isa't isa in such a way na yung isa ay sum, yung isa ay difference. Kaya you have here in the formula, xy multiplied to xy, pero yung isa ay plus, yung isa ay minus. Okay, and this will result to a difference of squares. Okay, bakit? Because if you try FOIL method here, this will be x squared, diba? First outer will be negative xy, inner will be positive xy, And then the last terms would be negative kasi positive negative yon, y squared. And that way, makakancel si xy kasi positive negative siya. And then you'll result to this, x squared minus y squared. So, sa madalit sabi, pag nakita ka ng product ng dalawang binomial, na yung binomial na yun ay parehas, ang difference lang ay yung sign, positive yung isa, isa ay negative, then the answer is simply, square mo lang yung first term, that's x squared, minus square mo lang yung second term, that's y squared. So, any term can replace x and y in this formula. Okay? Let's have an example to understand this. So, you have 4x plus 5y multiplied to 4x minus 5y. And as you can see, you have the you have the same first terms, 4x, and second terms may 5y. Ang difference lang is plus yung isa, isa yung minus. So, ang shortcut lang natin dito is, square mo lang yung first term. So, yung first term is 4x squared. Minus mo lang dyan yung square ng second term mo, which is 5y. Okay, and then, simplifying, you'll get 16x squared minus 25y squared. So, kapag nakita ka ng difference of squares, pwede mo naman siyang pabalikin, or kung i-factor mo naman siya, di ba, para mamaya pag ginawa natin, yun, dito siya babalik sa sum and difference of two similar terms. Okay? Next, number 2. You have here 7x to the 6th minus 3y to the 8 multiplied by 7x to the 6 plus 3y to the 8. Okay. So, get the first term, square that, minus, copy the second term, square also that. Our final answer will be 49 x raised to 12, right? Okay, minus 9y raised to 16. So, remember our laws of exponents, ha? Baka mali to. Okay, number 3. You have here, a minus 4b minus 7 multiplied by a minus 4b plus 7. As you can see, this is quite different from the formula kasi the formula states two similar, say the two same terms, di ba? So, ibig sabihin, we're expecting binomial siya. Kaso ito, trinomial yung given sa atin. But as you can see, pwede nating i-group, di ba? Pwede nating i-group para makakreate tayo ng binomial in such a way na gagawin natin tong ganito. Pagsasamahin mo si a minus 4b. Okay, tapos you have minus 7. And then you still have a minus 4b. And then you have plus 7. And if I show you that, pwedeng magkasama to, that's one term. Halimbawa lang, a minus 4b. Tapos ito, a minus 4b din. So you have the same first term. Tapos yung second terms mo, 7 and 7. Which are separated by positive and negative, diba? So ibig sabihin, pwede tayong difference of squares. Tawag dito. Mag-difference of squares para ma-expand natin to. So, magiging sagot natin dyan would be, copy the first term. Ang first term mo ngayon is a minus 4b and then square that. Okay. Minus, square the second term. Your second term is 7. Okay. Tapos, kung gusto mo siyang i-further expand, diba, i-apply mo ngayon yung first special product natin kanina. Yung square of a binomial. So, that would be a squared minus 2 times first term a, second term 4b, diba? Plus second term 4b squared para sa expansion nito. And then you have minus, so minus 7 squared, that's 49. So if you want to further expand that, simplify, that would be a squared minus 8ab plus 16b squared, okay, minus 49. This will be our expanded form for that special product. So, as long as principles are followed, we do not necessarily need to stick strictly on the formula na parang kung sinabing binomial yung itsura ng formula, dapat binomial lang din yung given. Hindi po. As long as the concept is there, meron kang similar first terms, so pwede mo silang i-group to create those set of first terms. And if you think the special product is applicable, then there's no problem with that. Okay. Let's proceed to the next special product. So this is letter C. Our third special product is the cube of a binomial. Okay. For the cube of a binomial, you have a binomial there, let's say x plus y, and then we're going to take its cube. So instead of manually doing FOIL method, dalawang beses, we can just simply follow the formula we're in. We take the cube of the first term, okay, plus 3 times square of the second term times the 3 times square of the first term times the second term plus 3 times yung kabila naman. So, the first term is x, the second term will be squared, nagpalit lang, 'di ba? And then plus cube ng third term. Kung halimbawa yung binomial mo is subtraction naman yung operation in between them and you're going to take the cube of that is still cube of the first term, pero negative na yung sunod. Minus 3 times square the first term times the second term, positive 3xy squared minus y cube. So, mapapansin mo na alternating yung sign. 'Di ba? Kung positive ito, positive to lahat. Positive x cube, positive 3x squared y, positive ito, positive ito. Pero kung minus ito, in between your two terms, sa liitan, this is positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay, and then follow the sequence. So, you have x cube, x squared y, tapos palit, xy squared, and then y cube for the exponents. Ano po? Okay, so let's try to do that in the examples given. Okay, number 1. You have a squared minus 4 quantity cube. So, that would be the first term, cube. Okay. Minus, kasi sa liitan, di ba? Dahil negative to eh. Minus 3 times the first term, squared, multiplied by the second term. Di ba? Following the formula. Plus 3 times the first term, a squared, multiplied by the second term, 4. Pero square naman natin to. And then minus the second term, which is 4. Then co-cube naman natin siya. So, simplifying our answer, that would be a raised to 6 minus, you have there 3 times 4, that's 12. A to the 4th, okay, plus 3 times 16 na to, kasi 4 squared is 16. Times 3, that's 48. That would be a squared minus 4 cubed, that would be 64. Diba? And this is our expanded form. Okay. Next, number 2. You have there a to the 4th plus b to the 5th, z to the 8th quantity cube. Same process lang. Ang difference lang is, ngayon, lahat positive na yung terms, no? So, that gives us first term cube plus 3 times the first term squared times the second term. Plus 3 times the first term times the second term squared. Ito naman yung i-square natin. Okay. Plus the third term, b to the 5th, z to the 8th, cube naman. Okay, we're just following the formula. So, simplifying, that gives us a raised to 12 plus, that would be 3a raised to 8, diba? 4 times 2. And then we copy b to the 5th, z to the 8th. Okay, plus, you have 3a to the 4th, and then we multiply by 2, ito, yung exponents ni b and ni z. So, you get there b raised to 10, and then z raised to 16. Okay, plus, you have b raised to 15, 5 times 3, and z raised to 24. And this gives you the expanded form of number 2. Okay. Number 3. You have a fraction here. So, we have 2a to the 4th all over 3b to the 5th minus 5x squared quantity cube. So, since minus yon, salitan yung sign natin, no? So, that gives us first term 2a to the 4th over 3b to the 5th cube minus 3 times the first term, 2a to the 4th, 3b to the 5th, squared, multiplied by the second term, 5x squared, plus 3 times the first term, 2a to the 4th, all over 3b to the 5th, multiplied by the second term squared, okay, plus the third term, the second term, quantity cube. Okay, and then we simplify. So, simplifying, ganun ulit. Loss on exponents. We distribute our expanded power rule. We distribute the exponents on all terms inside. So, that would be 2 cubed, which is 8. A raised to 12. We multiply the exponent. All over 3 raised to 3 would be 27. And then b raised to 15. Okay. Minus. Okay. So, we have here, for the constant, you have here 3, di ba ito magiging 3 squared siya. 3 squared siya. Kaso since may 3 sa numerator, magka-cancel yon. Ibig sabihin may matitirang isang 3 na lang sa denominator. So I can write here over 3 na dahil ng isang 3 na yon, and then you'll have 2 squared which is 4 times 2 squared, ito po, 2 squared, 4 times 5. Na-cancel na to ha. So you have 4 times 5, that's 20. 28 to the 8. 4 times 2. X squared. Okay, all over b raised to 10. 5 times 2. Okay, plus. Okay. Correct pala natin to. Kasi minus nga pa lang yung operation natin. So, minus dapat to. Okay, so let's move to the third term. So, that would be, ayun, cancel na natin to. So, wala naman exponent sa labas. Pwede na natin i-cancel diretso. Then, we'll have 2 times 5 squared. 5 squared is 25 times 2. So, you get 50. A to the 4th. Okay, x squared would be x to the 4th. All over b raised to 5. Okay, minus, 5 cube would be 125. X raised to 6. So, this will be our expanded form for number 3. Okay. Moving on. Yan. We have a special case of product of binomial and trinomial. Okay. So, this is the fourth special product, that is special case ng product of binomial and trinomial. Okay. So, mapapansin natin dito that yung products natin, you have a binomial here. Say, the first one is x plus y multiplied to the square of the first term minus the product of both terms plus the square of the second term. So, parang nangyari dito, this is your binomial. Minultiply siya sa trinomial, na kung saan yung trinomial mo, in-square lang yung first term, in-square din yung second term, and then kinuha lang yung product ng dalawang terms, pero reverse sign. So, kung plus to, minus doon. If that's the case, ang sagot daw nito, kung mapapansin mo yung pattern na yun sa given, pwede mo nang i-shortcut yan as simply difference or sum of cubes. X cube plus y cube. Okay. You can prove that by simply doing distribution or multiplying. Diba? So that would give you x cubed. Then let me multiply this here minus x squared y. And then this here plus xy squared. Okay. And then you have the second term naman to all the terms in the trinomial. So you have plus x squared y. And then minus xy squared. And then plus here, you get y cubed. And in this expansion, makikita natin na you have negative x squared y and positive x squared y. So cancel. And then you have xy squared minus xy squared. So cancel. Matitira x cubed plus y cubed. So kung mapapansin mo tong pattern na to, okay, pwede natin i-shortcut yung solution by simply taking the sum of the cubes of the terms in the binomial. Okay? So, in opposite to that, we also have, if you are given, okay, x minus y naman, times x squared square of the first term, plus xy, plus y squared, then you'll get difference of cubes naman. X cube minus y cube. So, mapapansin nyo na ang sinusunod nating sign dito is yung sign ng binomial. So, if the binomial is positive, the trinomial's middle term is opposite, that's negative. Pero yung sagot natin is sum of cubes. Kung ito ay x minus y, the binomial is negative, magiging positive ito, positive dapat ito, then, difference of cubes yung sagot natin. Okay? Pag naiba yung sign dito sa trinomial, of course, you cannot anymore use the formula kasi mag-iiba na yung sagot natin dyan. Okay, so let's try the examples. You can move this for a bit. Yan. Okay, tas yan. Okay. Number 1, you have there 7a minus 4b multiplied by a squared plus 28ab plus 16b squared. To be honest, not all special products are easy to identify. Okay, talagang titingnan mo pa, you have to trial and error or maybe check with the formula kung mag-a-appear ba na yung trinomial dito follows the formula before you can decide that you will use sum of cubes or difference of cubes for that. Okay? So, if I'm checking, pag in-square ko to, that's 49a. That's 49a squared. So, obviously, this is not anymore a perfect, a special case of binomial and trinomial. So, kapag ganito na yung nangyari, you have to expand. Diba? Okay, so let's do that. Let's expand. Kasi hindi siya pasok hindi siya pasok dun sa formula natin. Dahil, supposedly, dapat po, square ng first term ito. So, that's 49a squared. Siguro may typo yung example. This should have been 49 para masunod natin. Pero since hindi siya 49, edi ibig sabihin hindi siya pasok dun sa formula, we're going to expand it manually. So, that would be by distribution. Okay? So, you will have an answer which is 7a cubed plus, so you have, let's get our calculator. You have 7 times 28. 7 times 28. So, that's 196. So, plus 196. You have a times ab. So, that would be a squared b. Diba? Dalawa yung a natin. And then, we proceed with the third term in the trinomial. So, plus 16 times 7. 112 ab squared. Okay? And then, let's move to the second term in the binomial. So, dito naman tayo. Minus 4a squared b. Okay? Minus 28 times 4. So, that's minus 112. Minus 112 ab squared. Okay? Minus 4 times 16. So, that's 64. B cubed. Okay, and then as you can see, this is equivalent to, what can we simplify? So, you have there 7a cubed, and then you have a squared b may be simplified kasi you have here 196 a squared b minus 4a squared b. So, you will get an answer which is 192 a squared b. Diba? That removes this, that simplifies this too. And then you have positive 112 ab squared, negative 112 ab squared. So that simply cancels it out. And then you have the remaining term which is 64b cubed. And this will be our answer. And as you can see, the answer is not anymore the difference of cubes, diba? Trinomial yung sagot natin. Okay? Next, number 2. Okay, you have in number 2, 3c squared minus 5d to the 4th multiplied by 9 multiplied by 9c to the 4th plus 15c squared d to the 4th plus 25d to the 8th. So, if you're going to check, we can check the first term first. Pag in-square ko yan, that would be 9c to the 4th. So, this is correct. And then, if I square this, that would be 25 d to the 8, which is correct. If this is negative, this should be positive. Diba? And if I take the product of these two, that would be 15, check, c squared d to the 4th. So, which means it follows this formula. Diba? So, if it follows that formula, what we do is, we simply take the first term, that's 3c squared, and cube that, minus, follow this sign. Okay, take the second term, that's 5d to the 4th, and cube that. So, to simplify, that will give us, 3 cube would be 27, c to the 6th, right? Minus 5 cube, that would be 125, d to the 4 times 3, so that's 12. Okay, this will be our answer. Okay, let's proceed to number 3. Number 3, we have 5x minus 3y multiplied by 25x squared plus 30xy plus 9y squared. Okay, so if I take the square of the first term, that's 25x squared. Square of the second term, that's 9y squared. Take the product of the two, that's 50. Okay, take the product of these two, that's 15xy. Kaso unfortunately, this is 30. So, ibig sabihin, it doesn't follow the formula. Thus, it will not produce a difference of cubes. So, we will prove that by expansion. So, yun yung remaining solution natin for this. Ano? We have to expand. So, expanding that, you get 125x cubed. So, 125x cubed. We go to the next term. That would be 150 x squared y, and then we go to the last terms, plus 45xy squared. And then we proceed to the second term in the binomial. We distribute that to all the terms in the trinomial. So you get minus 75x squared y, okay, minus 90, diba this one, minus 90xy squared, minus 9, 18, 27. So 9 times 3 would be 27 y cubed. Okay, simplifying our answer, that gives us 125x cubed. Okay, you have to look for x squared y. So this is 150x squared y minus 75x squared y. So you get left with 75x squared y. Okay, and then you have 45xy squared, negative 90xy squared. So that gives you negative 45xy squared. Okay, minus 27 y cube, and this will be our answer. So you have to be very careful when you are if you want to utilize your special products, kasi you have to check talaga the given if it fits the formula before you can use it, okay, para mapaigsi yung solution natin. Okay, so hindi kayo pwedeng basta na lang mag-jump into the formula kasi feeling nyo parehas. Okay, moving on, we have pang ilan na, this is the fifth. So, we have our fifth special product. That would be the square of a trinomial. Square of a trinomial. So, you have a trinomial. Given here is ABC. So, it's essential that you follow the formula, ha. You have there the sum of A, B, and C. We square that. So, meron kang trinomial, i-square natin siya. So, it's essential that you understand the formula is looking for positive terms, diba? You have A, you have B, you have C. Paano kung meron akong trinomial, tas negative yung term niya, ma'am? So, ang gagawin nyo lang po is, pag kinuha mo yung first term, kagaya nito, first term is A, kung negative yung given sa inyo, edi isama nyo yung negative sign dun as part of the term to make the formula positive. Ano po? So, ang sagot daw dito is, simply take the squares of each term. So, that's A squared plus B squared plus C squared, and then, plus product of 2 times 2 terms taken at a time out of 3. So, sa tatlo, A, B, C, pipili ka ng dalawang terms. So, you have A and B plus 2, tapos B and C naman, diba? Plus 2, A and C naman. So, ibig sabihin, until you exhaust the possible combinations of 2 terms out of 3. So, ito yung magiging product natin. Ano? Let's try to do an example for that. So, you have A minus B minus C squared. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na paano kapag negative yung sign nung term dun sa trinomial. So, isama nyo yung negative sign as part of the term. Parang ang mangyayari dyan is you have A plus the negative B will be your second term plus negative C will be your third term squared. And that makes them positive. Okay, so if you follow the formula, you simply take the square of the first term, that's A squared, square the second term, that's B squared, square the third term, that's C squared, diba? Negative C quantity squared is C squared. And then you have 2 times the first term times the second term. So you get 2 times A times negative B. That's negative. Kasi may negative sign dito eh. So negative 2AB, okay, plus, then you have BC. Second term, third term. So, negative B times negative C is positive BC times 2. So, positive 2BC. And then, for AC, dito tayo. Okay, that gives you negative then kasi may negative sign si C. So, negative 2AC. And this will be the expanded form of the given. So, may mga magpapalit lang na sign dun sa product or sa expanded form natin. Okay? Number 2. You have there 3x plus y minus 5 quantity squared. So, siguro pwede nang diretso. Or hindi ba? So, you have 3x squared. Square each terms first. So, plus y squared plus negative 5 squared. Okay. plus, dito ka na lang sa ilalim isusulat, plus 2 times the first term times the second term plus 2 times the second term times the third term, o sinama ko yung negative sign sa negative 5, plus 2 times the first term times the third term. Sama ulit si negative sign ng 5. Ay. Hindi kasha. Okay. Negative 5. Okay. So, to simplify, our answer will be 9x squared. We have 9x squared plus y squared. Negative 5 will be positive 25 na. Okay. Plus 6xy. Okay. Minus 10y, di ba? 2 times negative 5. And then minus, you have, what's that? 30x. Okay. And then you have to check then if there are terms we can simplify. So, if none, this could be our answer. Or you can rearrange the terms para maganda sila tingnan. So, we can start with 9x squared plus 9y squared. Okay, plus 6xy. Minus 30x. Pwede ganun. Minus 30x plus 6xy minus 10y plus 25. So, normally, when we arrange our terms, you arrange them by degree. Kaya inuna ko muna yung x squared, y squared. When it comes to the letters, normally we follow alphabetical order. Kaya inuna ko yung x. And then, kapag may combinations like x and y, diba, first degrees yun. Ayun, so parang nangyayari ay nasa pagitan sila ng dalawang letters x and dalawang terms with x and y. And then the constant usually goes at the end of the expression. Okay? Next, number 3. Okay, number 3 is quite different because you have a given here which is multinomial, 4 yung terms niya. You have here a minus x minus y plus z. And then you have a plus x plus y minus z. And usually, if these are the givens, ibig sabihin, it's making you use other, parang may pinapagamit pa sa'yo na ibang special products para lang magamit mo. Kumbaga, several special products yung gagamitin mo dun sa expression para lang ma-expand mo siya ng mas madali. Ngayon, kung ayaw mong mag-isip, pwede mo namang i-expand conventional yung i-distribute mo. Pero if I were you, the best thing to do here is, if you try to factor out, diba? Kagaya dito, if I'm going to group together this, diba? The only way the signs will be similar if I factor out a negative sign from these 3 in the first multinomial. Ang mangyayari dyan is, you have a, and then I'm going to factor out negative sign from all of these terms. When you say factor out, you're going to divide each of the term by negative sign or by negative 1 in essence. So, yung negative x mo divide negative, that's positive. Kaya mangyayari dito, you'll get a parenthesis here, and then x will now be positive. Negative y divide negative will be positive y, and positive c divide negative 1 will be negative z. Diba? Yun yung finactor out natin. Multiplied by, you have a plus, with addition kasi, parang walang change in sign. So, ibig sabihin, we can simply just input a parenthesis here to show na we can group together x plus y minus z. And if you're able to do that, mapapansin mo na yun, parehas sila, diba? First 2 terms are similar, that's a. Second set or second terms are similar, kaso set siya. So, if that's the case, tapos you have 2 terms, bawa 2 terms yun, separated by negative and positive signs, ibig sabihin, this is product of the sum and difference of 2 same terms, magiging difference of squares siya. So, if you expand, this is simply the first term squared, minus the second term, which is x plus y minus z squared. Okay, and then, after doing difference of squares, mapapansin mo that you have a trinomial here, na pinapasquare sa atin. So, dito mo palang i-apply yung, yan, itong, ano ba to? Pang-5 special product natin. So, expansion will result to a squared, okay, minus the quantity. So, do not forget that when you have a set of expression that is enclosed in a parenthesis with an exponent, you do not remove that parenthesis yet upon expansion. Okay? Kasi it will affect the sign of the next terms pa. Okay? So, we're going to enclose in the parentheses pa rin, tapos we're going to follow the formula we learned a while ago para ma-expand natin to. So, that would be x squared plus y squared. Okay? Negative z quantity squared, so that's plus z squared. Okay? And then you have plus 2xy. Diba? And then, minus, kasi negative sign to. So, first term, third term. Okay? Or, hindi yata yung sinunod natin. Pero okay lang magbago yung sequence, walang problema. Addition naman to eh. Okay, pero kung ano yung ginawa natin kanina, ito, halimbawa. So, that's negative 2yz. Okay, and then, the first and the third term would be negative 2xz. Okay, and all of these are enclosed in the parentheses. So, in that case, if you want to remove the parentheses, you just have to distribute the negative sign. So, ang mangyayari dito, magiging a squared minus x squared minus y squared minus z squared minus 2xy plus 2yz plus 2xz will be our final answer for the third example. So, you just have to be very careful when you're using your special products ulit kasi nga, yun, kailangan nyo pang i-check yung given kung pwede nga ba natin gamitin yung special product sa kanya. Okay, do not speculate na parang kamukha tapos gagawin nyo na agad. Okay, and that gives you your special product. So, this time, we're going to use all these special products para makapag-factor tayo ng terms or makapag-simplify. Okay? Kumbaga, parang ang given sa atin kanina is you have factored terms, we're going to expand them by multiplication, pero gumamit tayo ng special product formulas para mabilis. This time, you have an expanded expression, and then we will be asked to put this back into this form. Okay, itong form ang gustong kuhanin or ang hinihingi sa atin. Factored form siya. So, for factoring, okay, yan, let's start with the most basic one. Being well-versed with the different special products eases solving for the factored form of algebraic expressions. And being able to simplify algebraic expressions is very important in calculus. Okay, to be able to create models for specific problem solvings or worded problems. So, the first common method of factoring is the common monomial factor. And this is the first thing we do whenever we are being asked to factor out. Lagi mong i-check kung meron bang common factor or may common term or may common, like for example, may common coefficient sa bawat terms in an expression. And then if there is, we're going to factor that out. And when we say we factor that out, ibig sabihin, you're going to divide. Kasi nga, kagaya ng sabi dito, let me just write here, factoring. And as I said, the first type of factoring that we should always apply is the common monomial factor. Common monomial factor. So, as stated here in the presentation, if you have an expression ax plus ay, you have two terms. And in this both terms, common si a, iba, para silang may a, pwede mo siyang i-factor out. When we say we factor out, ibig sabihin, yung common term na napansin mo, you're going to divide that to each of the terms given. So, kung common dito si a, diba, si a, i-divide ko each of this term by a. And that will result to having a multiplied to the remaining term. So, para mayayari dito is, you will get a multiplied to, so the first term divided by a, ax over a, that will give you x. Plus, the second term, ay divided by a, that will give you y. Okay. In-explain ko lang ulit ng malinaw kasi baka mamaya may ilan sa inyo na nalimutan na kung paano ginagawa ulit yung factoring or kumbaga pag nagiging komplikado na yung given, di na alam kung anong gagawin, paano nga ba nagfa-factor? Dini-divide po natin. Okay, we divide the terms by the common factor that you think is common on all of the terms. Okay, so let's try that in the examples given. So number 1, you have 8x cubed, okay, minus 12x squared y. So in this binomial, common dyan si x, di ba? Parehas may x. Okay, and then when you're factoring, kapag nagfa-factor ka, at positive yung exponents mo, kapag positive ito, you always take the lowest exponent as the common factor. So, you noticed x is common, X has two types of exponents. There are two kinds of degrees for X. That's cubed and squared. And between these two, pipiliin mo mas maliit. So, ibig sabihin, that's X squared. X squared is your common term. Aside from that, okay, kailangan i-check nyo din yung constant. So, with constant, ano bang tawag natin doon? Least common factor. So, that would be 4, di ba? Okay, I don't think I need to teach that pa. So, we have 4x squared multiplied by, so that means this term, 8x cubed, will have to be divided by 4x squared. And that gives you, diba? Halimbawa, isulat ko yon para lang malinaw sa ating lahat. Let me write that in green. So, I'm going to divide this by 4x squared. And that will result to 8 divide 2 is 2. 8 divide 4 is 2. And then you have x cubed divide x squared, that's x. Okay, minus, copy this sign. And then divide this also by, you have to divide this also by 4x squared. So that gives you 12 divided by 4. That's 3. Okay, x squared divide x squared will be cancelled. And then you'll be left with y. So ito ngayon yung factored form natin. Okay, in calculus, factoring is very important. Lalo na kapag nagsisimplify tayo ng mga differentials or derivatives. Okay, number 2. You have R multiplied by P plus Q, okay, minus 3 multiplied by P plus Q. So, as we've discussed before, we know that this is one term, and this is one term, and they are separated by subtraction. And in these two terms, bale, P plus Q is common, di ba? You have a group binomial there that is common on both terms. So, we can factor that out. So, pwede kong ilabas dyan si P plus Q in a parenthesis, which means this will be multiplied to this term, R times P plus Q divided by P plus Q. So, you'll get R na lang. Copy this sign. So, minus 3 plus P plus Q. 3 times P plus Q divided by P plus Q. That will cancel this. So, may tira ka ngayong 3. And this will be our factored form, P plus Q times R minus 3. Okay? So, not necessarily kailangan na parang yung itsura ng mga terms kaparehas nung first example natin. Hindi laging ganyan. Okay? Pwedeng complicated yung term, halimbawa, or you have several terms in each of the given. And then, what you do is simply apply the principle. Kaya nga dito, hindi kayo dapat nag-aaral ng same set of examples lamang. You should be able to explore and try to find out what different expressions ang possible na lumabas. Okay, you have to anticipate the kind of questions na pwedeng mangyari. Okay, that's the job of an engineer. So number 3, you have 30 x raised to m plus 1, okay, minus 84 x raised to n plus 1. Okay, and as you can see, pwede nating sabihin na common dito si maybe 6. Diba? Tama ba? 6. For the constants, you have 6. For the variable, hindi mo makikita. Nothing is common between x raised to m plus 1. I mean, if you're going to look at x raised to m plus 1 and x raised to n plus 1, you cannot simply factor them out kasi magkaiba yung exponent nila. Pero if you understood your laws of exponents, alam mo na pwede nating paghiwalayin yan, di ba? If you have 30 x raised to m plus 1, si m plus 1, we can deduce that into two factors. That's x raised to m tsaka x. Di ba? Same base, you add exponent so that you get x raised to 1. Para pag sinimplify mo to, you copy this base and then you add exponents, m and 1. Pwede mong pabalikin. So, that would give you minus 84 x raised to n times x. And in this given, we can already see that you have 6 common, diba, between 30 and 84. And then you have x is common between the two terms. So, simplifying, that gives you 30. So, parang mayari ito, i-divide ko to ng 6x. Sorry. So, cancel to. Then, you'll get 30 divided by 6. So, you'll get there 5. 5x raised to m minus 84 divided by 6. You get there 14. Diba? 14 x raised to n. Cancel nyo yun si x din. Okay? So that gives you the simplified answer for number 3. That's your common monomial factor. And as I've said kanina, ito yung una nyong i-apply palagi kapag meron kayong, binigyan kayo ng isang expression na kailangan nyo i-factor out. Yun ang una mong titingnan muna bago ka mag-proceed dun sa ibang types of factoring. Okay, let's proceed to the second type of factoring, which is the difference of two squares. So, malalaman mo na difference of two squares siya base sa itsura, di ba? Letter B. You have difference of squares. So, if you notice that you have a binomial, or you have terms wherein difference siya ng dalawang squares, going back to special product, ibig sabihin, pag finactor out mo yan, kagaya ng sabi dito sa formula mo, if you have x squared minus y squared, okay, para ma-factor mo yan, you have difference of squares na, x squared minus y squared, you simply take the square root of the first term. So, x squared square root, that would be x. Okay, minus y squared square root, that would be y. And then multiply this to the same set of two terms, x and y. Kung ano ito, yun din. Pero plus naman ngayon. Because by special product, alam natin this is the product of, the sum and difference. The product of the sum and difference of the same two terms. Or two same terms. Okay, will lead you to the difference of squares. Baka may magtanong, ma'am, paano i-factor yung x squared plus y squared? Sum of the squares naman po. This is non-factorable. Ibig sabihin, it's already in its factored form or it's already a prime factor. Hindi mo na siya pwedeng i-break down into factors pa. Okay, so we only have this. So kapag binigyan ka ng x squared plus y squared, ibig sabihin, simplest form na po yan. Okay, let's apply that to our example. So number 1, you have there 16x squared minus 25y squared. So you noticed that the constant can be, the constant is a square, 25 is square, the terms are squared also. So ibig sabihin, this is difference of squares. What we do with that is, you simply take the square root of the first term. Okay, when we say square root of the first term, okay, minus square root of the second term, that means you have square root of 16, which is 4. For variables, that means you're going to divide. Pag square root, you're going to divide the exponent by 2. So, if you have x squared, di-divide mo yung exponent niya by 2, which means x na lang siya pag in-square root natin. Okay? So, that's 4x minus 5y. And then, multiply this to the same set of terms, 4x and 5y. Pero this time, positive naman siya. Or plus naman siya. Okay, pwede magpalit pwedeng plus muna, minus. Then minus, kayo ang bahala. Okay, number 2. You have a to the 8, x to the 4th, minus 16. This is obviously a difference of squares. So, you have even, diba? It will only happen on even exponents. So, you have even exponents, a to the 8, x to the 4th, minus you have a square, which is 16. So, to take the square root, i-divide lang by 2 yung exponents. You have a to the 4th, okay, x squared minus 4, di ba? Square root of 16. Times, copy the same set of terms, pero plus naman ngayon. Okay? Madali lang. Number 3, you have 9x to the 8 all over y to the 14 minus 4x raised to 6. So, you will have there, the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of x to the 8 is x to the 4th. You divide the exponent by 2. All over y to the 14th, divide 2 yung exponent, that's y to the 7th, minus 2, the square root of 4 is 2, x raised to 3, 6 divide 2. Multiply to itself, pero sum naman. You have 3x to the 4th over y to the 7th, and then sum with 2x cubed. So this will be your factored form. Okay, and that is difference of squares. Okay, so, kaya sinasabi natin na mahalaga sa special products if you know them because it will help you factor easily. Let's proceed to the third one. So, our third method of factoring is the perfect square trinomial. Okay, so for the perfect square trinomial, kung naalala nyo pa kanina, sabi natin, if a binomial can be squared, its answer, which is the square of the first term plus twice the product of the both terms plus the square of the second term, it will create a perfect square trinomial. So if you're able to identify that the trinomial given is a perfect square, then, yun, pwede mo siyang gawing square of a binomial or difference of, square of a binomial. Okay? So, kailangan i-check mo na dapat pag in-square root mo to, that gives you x. Pag in-square root mo to, that gives you y. If you take the product of the two, that's xy. Multiply that by 2, that's 2xy. Dapat yun yung middle term mo ngayon dito. Okay? That's how you're going to check if it is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so kung yung middle term mo ay negative, ibig sabihin, you have x squared minus 2xy plus y squared. That means you have x minus y quantity squared naman. Okay, so let's try the examples. So our first example for the perfect square trinomial, we have there 4m squared plus 20mn plus 25n squared. So what you're going to do is to check first, you can check your terms first. If you take the square root of the first term, that's 2m. If you take the square root of the second term, that's 5n. Okay? And it should appear that if I multiply this 2, that's 10mn. 10mn times 2, multiply that by 2 ulit. So that's 20mn. It should result to the middle term, which is 20mn. In that case, this is a perfect square trinomial. So you take the square root of the first term, square root of the second term, and then copy the sign of the middle term. So that's plus. And square that. That is your factor for this perfect square trinomial. Okay, let's do that to number 2. Number 2, you have 49x squared minus 42x plus 9. Okay, we have to check first. So the square root of the first term is 7x. Okay, and then the square root of the second term is 3. If I take the product of 7x times 3, that would be 21x. Okay, 21x times 2, that's 42x. And there you have it, your middle term. So, ibig sabihin, perfect square trinomial siya. Which means, ang sagot natin ay 7x minus 3. We copy the middle term's sign. Okay? Number 3. We have there 25x to the 4th. Okay? Minus 80x squared y to the 4th. Plus 64y to the 8th. Okay? Checking with the first and third terms. So we have 5x squared for the square root of the first term, and then the second term is 8y to the 4th. Okay? Taking the product of the two, that would be 40x squared y to the 4th. So yung 40 times 2 natin, that's 80. So you get the middle term, which means this is a perfect square trinomial. Ay, may square to ha. Yung previous sagot natin. Squared nito, pero dapat negative yung middle sign. Or yung sign sa loob. Okay? Number 4. You have there 81x to the 6th minus 18x to the 4th plus x squared. So before you take the factor, before you transform this perfect square trinomial to squares of binomials, mapapansin na agad natin that there's a common term. Diba? X is common on all three terms. So, ibig sabihin, babalikan mo na ng common monomial factor, ha? Balikan mo na ng common monomial factor. And then, this 3x terms, si x squared yung pinakamaliit. So, we're going to factor out x squared. And then, in that case, this will be equivalent to 81 x to the 4th minus 18x squared, diba? Plus 1. Ganyan yung magiging itsura niya. And then, try natin itong trinomial na to if perfect square trinomial siya. So, that will be 8x squared multiplied by, so the square root of 81x squared is 9x squared. The square root of 81x to the 4th is 9x squared. Okay. Ang square root ni 1 is 1 pa din. If you take the product of these two, that would be 9x squared. So, you multiply that by 2, you get 18x squared, which is the middle term. So, ibig sabihin, perfect square trinomial to, we copy the sign of the middle term, so that's negative. And then square that. This will be our answer for number 4. Okay, so yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na before you do simplifying expressions by factoring, you have to check first if there's a common factor in each of the terms para makita mo na, para ma-simplify mo muna siya bago mo siya gamitan ng special products or ng ibang types or methods of factoring. Okay, so that's perfect square trinomial. So let's proceed to the fourth one. Okay, the fourth one is a trinomial also, pero special case of trinomial to, no? We are going to factor a trinomial in the form, okay, so you have, if the trinomial is in the form x squared plus the product of a plus b times x, and the sum of a plus b times x plus the product of ab, it should be, kapag finactor out mo, equivalent to x plus a times x plus b. So you have product of two binomials. Para mangyayari is you have a trinomial which will result to the product of two binomials. Ito yung ginagawa natin ng high school siguro na pinapahanap sa'yo ng professor kung ano yung factors ng 6, di ba? For example, sa number 1, gawin na natin. For example, sa number 1, you have x squared minus x minus 6. Ang pinapahanap sa atin ng prof before is hanapin mo daw yung factors ni negative 6. So, ililista natin yun. That could be negative 6 times 1. That could be 6 times negative 1. That could be negative 3 times 2. Or that could be positive 3 times negative 2. Diba? Tapos, kailangan daw yung pipiliin mong factor, ang sum niya, pag pinag-add mo to, alin dyan sa apat na yan, dapat ang sagot, itong coefficient ng middle term mo, which is negative 1. So, sa apat na to, ang magkakaroon lang ng sum na negative 1 dyan ay si negative 3 at si 2. So, in that way, ang magiging sagot daw nito is, product nito, square root of the first term, sorry, that's x, multiplied to another binomial with the square root of the first term, which is x, and then yung chosen factors mo. So, that would be x minus 3, okay, x plus 2. That will be our answer. Okay, if you try to expand that, ito magiging tsura niya, di ba? Magiging x squared yan. And then positive 2x. And then negative 3x. And then negative 6. So if you simplify positive 2x, negative 3x, you'll get negative x for that. Okay, so ito yung shortcut natin doon. But since you have your calculators with you, pwede nyo naman pong i-check yung inyong sagot with your calcu. So you just get your calcu and then look for mode. Ito yun. Press equations. And then in the equations, you have to choose alin dyan yung solve for roots. So, ang nagsasolve dyan for roots is yung polynomials natin. So, you press this one. Okay, kung quadratic yung equation nyo, quadratic yan kung ang highest degree niya ay 2. So, for number 1, ang highest degree niya ay 2. We can check this in your calculator. Ang gagawin nyo lang is in the order of decreasing degree. So, you have x squared, x, and then constant. I-input mo lang sa calculator yung numerical coefficient ng bawat term. So, for x squared, you have 1, diba? Press equals. And then, for negative x, you have negative 1, kasama ang negative sign, equals. And then, for the constant, that's negative 6. So, that's negative 6, equals. After that, you press equals again. And then, it will show you dalawang value. Okay? You have negative 2, x is negative 2, and x is positive 3. So, if you're going to write that down, you have in your calculator x equal to negative 2, tsaka x equal to positive 3. So, ito na yung factors mo. Ang gagawin mo lang is transpose mo to sa left side. Magiging x plus 2 siya. Diba? Ito magiging x plus 2 siya, which is that one. Okay, transpose mo to sa left side. That's x minus 3, which is this one. So, yung product ng dalawang yun, ito yung result niya. Yung quadratic equation natin. Okay, so madali na siya. Kasi you have your calculator with you. Okay, pero you can only do that if the trinomial is in just one variable, x lang or y lang. So, anong gagawin natin? Let's solve for number 2. Number 2 is x squared minus 5x plus 6. So, that would be the square root of the first term. So, you have x multiplied by another binomial, which is x. And then, look for the factors of 6, which will give you a sum of negative 5. So, that's negative 3. Tsaka negative 2, diba? Negative 3 times negative 2, that's positive 6. Pero pag pinag-add mo siya, that's negative 5. And that's correct. Pwede mo ulit yung i-check sa calcu. So, sa calculator, that would be mode, equation, quadratic. Okay. You have there 1, negative 5, and then positive 6. If you press equals, that's positive 2. So, pag nilagay mo siya sa factor, reverse sign lang, negative 2. And then, positive 3, negative 3. Okay. Let's check the third one. You have there x squared plus 5x minus 6. So, that gives us x times x. So, that gives you, for negative 6, that's negative 6, 1. Positive 6, 1. Pero yung magbibigay sa'yo ng positive 5 as a sum, that's positive 6, negative 1. Diba? 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. 6 plus negative 1, that's positive 5. So, this is our answer. You can check your calc for that. Pero, ibang form naman siya. So, this is what? This is the fifth one. Okay, trinomial of the form you have AC x squared plus AD plus BC times x plus BD. This will result to AX plus B multiplied by CX plus D. This is quite difficult to identify. Okay, but since sabi ko nga pwede naman tayong gumamit ng calculators for this, diba? Check nga natin. For the first example, you have their mode quadratic. So, you have there 2, positive 1, tsaka negative 6. Let's see what will happen. Okay, you have negative 2 and then 3 halves, diba? 1.5. So, para makuha natin yung sagot na yan. Okay, kasi medyo mahirap intindihin tong formula na to. What we do is, pwede ganito yung gawin nyo. You have there 2x squared plus x minus 6. Okay? You have to think, you have to get AC. You have to get the product AC. Kasi, you have here, the first term is a product of A times C. So, in this equation, if you have A equal to 2, the coefficient of the quadratic term, and then B is equivalent to 1, and then C is equivalent to negative 6, you have to get the product of AC, and that would be 2 times negative 6. So, that's negative 12. Okay, after that, what you do is, you look for factors of negative 12 na ang magiging sum ay positive 1. And there can only be negative 3 and 4. O kaya naman, negative 4 and 3. Negative 12 yan. Pero kailangan ko positive 1. So, ang positive 1 na sum dito is ito. Diba? So, ang gagawin nyo is, para madali, you get a box. You get a box. You write in the upper left corner yung first term. Okay, and then yung third term dito sa lower right, it's negative 6. And then get these factors, kahit saan mo siya ilagay dito, pero with x term na. Okay, kasi ito yung magsaserve as your middle term eh. Ito yun eh. So that's negative 3x, let's say, tsaka positive 4x. And then what you do is, you factor the common term horizontally and vertically. So horizontally, I have here 2x squared tsaka negative 3x, ang common dito is x, di ba? Okay, 4x and negative 6, ang common dito ay 2. Tama. And then if you go vertical, with 2x squared and 4x, common dyan si 2x. Okay. With negative 3x and negative 6, common dyan si negative 3. So if you're going to write this as a binomial, that would be 2x minus 3 tsaka x plus 2. Okay, let's try to expand that. Kung i-expand natin to, this is 2x squared. Okay, this one is positive 4x. This one is negative 3x. And then the last one is negative 6. So that gives you 2x squared, okay, plus x minus 6, which is similar to the given. Diba? Mas madali. Okay. Ngayon, yung lumabas kanina dun sa calculator natin, diba? Ito yung lumabas sa calcu. Nawala. So, we have mode quadratic. You have there 2, 1, negative 6. It gave you x equal to negative 2. Tsaka x equal to 1.5. 1.5 is equivalent to 3 halves in fraction. So, that would give you x plus 2. Okay, tsaka x minus 3 halves. Okay, but since this is an equation, diba, you can write this as, by multiplying both sides by 2, you can write that as 2x equal to 3. And that results to 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And you can use this as a factor in place of x minus 3 halves. So, you get x plus 2 times 2x minus 3, which is similar to this. Diba? So, if you have your calcio, pwedeng calcio na lang as long as you know how to write it in factor form. Okay? Next. Let's try the next one, number 2. So, for number 2, you have 6x squared plus 7x minus 20. So, you have a equal to 6, b equal to 7, c equal to negative 20. So, I'm going to get AC. That would be 6 times negative 20. So, I get negative 120. So, this time I have to look for factors of negative 120. That will result to a sum of 7. So, I have 12 and 10. I have 60 and 2. 24. Diba? 24 and 5. I can also have 15, diba? I can have 15. And that would be 8. 15 times 8, that's 120. So, yun. Ito yun. Ito yung medyo malapit dun sa 7 na sum eh. So, if we need negative 120, tas positive sum, which means, it means yung 8 ang negative sa atin. Kasi 15 times negative 8, that's negative 120. And then 15 plus negative 8, that's positive 7. So, ang gagawin natin, we're going to write this in a row and column, di ba? Ito kasi madaling gawin eh. So, you have 6x squared, tsaka negative 20. And then you have 15x, tsaka negative 8. So, factoring by vertically and horizontally. Common on the first row, si 3x. Diba? And then on the second row, common si negative 4. And then on the first column dito, common si 2. Sorry, I forgot yung x dito. Okay. Common si 2x. And then on the second row, common si 5x. So, we can write our factors as mali. Common si 5 lang. Walang x. So, ang factors natin would be 2x plus 5 tsaka 3x minus 4. So, let's test that by expansion. Okay, so by expansion, that gives us 6x squared. Okay, minus 8x plus 15x minus 20. So, simplifying, you get 6x squared plus 7x minus 20, which is correct. Okay, di ba madali lang? Pero you can check that also with your calcio. Kaya nga lang, ayun, mapapaisip kayo dun sa fractions. Pero madali lang naman eh. Mode quadratic. So, madali kasi mag-iisip ka pa ng ganito. Gaganituin pa natin yung solution. So, that's 6, 7, and negative 20. Ayun. So, you get negative 2.5. That's 5 halves. And 1.333, that's 4 thirds. So, ito yun. 4 thirds and 5 halves, diba? Okay. Last, for this set of methods, so you have 4x squared minus 19x plus 12. If you want, pwedeng calculate na lang tayo dito. Okay, that gives you mode quadratic. There's no problem with me if you used your calculator with this as long as you're able to factor it out. So that's 4, negative 19, and positive 12. That gives you, basta marunong kayong, basta alam nyo kung paano siya ibabalik papuntang factor ha. That gives you x equal to 3/4 for 0.75. Yan o, pwede nyo naman pindutin sa calculus para maging fraction siya. And x equal to 4. Okay, so that gives us 4x minus 3 equal to 0. And then you have x minus 4. So, 4x squared minus 19x plus 12 should be equivalent to 4x minus 3 times x minus 4. Okay. Checking, you have positive 4x squared, negative 16x, negative 3x, so that's negative 19x, and then positive 12, so which is correct. This is our factored form of the trinomial. Okay? Next, we also have, yan, paano natin ifa-factor yung sum of cubes or difference of cubes natin. So, this is our 7th method of factoring. So, factoring the sum and difference of cubes. So, you have there x cubed So if you have x cubed plus y cubed, what you do is, you take the cube root of the first term, that's x, cube root of the second term, that's y. And if this is positive, positive din ito. Okay, pero, yung trinomial na kasama niya, babalik ka lang doon sa special products natin, di ba? Square ng first term, okay, opposite the sign, so minus, product nilang dalawa, xy, plus square ng second term. Pero if you have x cube minus y cube naman, take the cube root of each term, x and y, and then minus. Tapos, square the first term, di ba? Product nitong dalawa, dito na kayo titingin, dun sa ni-root na natin, or dun sa binomial natin. xy, pero reverse operation positive, plus y squared. Okay? So, yun. As long as you know the special product, mas madali. So, kailangan well-versed kayo. Number 1, let's try that. You have 27m cubed minus 8n cubed. So, obviously, this is difference of cubes. So, we simply take the cube root of each term. So, you get 3m, copy the sign, minus, the cube root of 8 is 2n. Okay? And then, multiply that with, square mo to, first term mo. So, that's 9m squared. Okay? Kapag ito yung minus plus dito, and then, product nilang dalawa. So, that's 6mn. Okay? Plus, square mo yung second term. So, that's 4n squared. Yun, ang sagot natin. Okay, ito kasing trinomial na to, non-factorable na yun. It's already in its prime factored form. Okay, number 2. You have 27a to the 6th minus 64b to the 9. So, yung square root kanina, ang ginagawa natin is we divide the exponents by 2, diba? Kung cube root naman, you divide the exponents by 3 naman po. Okay, so, mangyayari dito is, you have 3 ulit, pero a raised to 2, a squared na. 'Di ba? Kasi 6 divide 3, that gives you 2 para ma-cube root mo siya. Minus, okay, 64, ang cube root niyan ay 4. B raised to 9, ang cube root niyan ay 3. B raised to 3. Di-divide mo lang yung exponent by 3. And then, multiply this 2, yan, the square of the first term. So, that's 9a to the 4th. Okay. Plus, product nitong dalawa. So, that gives you 12 a squared b cubed. Okay, plus square ng second term. So, that's 16 b to the 6. Ito na yung factored form natin. Number 3. So, you have there x to the 15 minus y to the 6, z to the 12, ganun ulit. That gives us x raised to 5. So, you divide the exponents by 3 minus y squared, z to the 4th, diba? Divide by 3, and then multiply 2. Square the first term, that's x to the 10th. So, multiply mo naman by 2. Plus, opposite sign. So, product nilang dalawang term. So, x to the 5th, y squared, z to the 4th, plus, square mo yung second term. So, that gives you y to the 4th, tsaka z to the 8th. Times 2 mo lang yung exponent nila. So, ito yung sagot natin. Okay? Number 4, you have x to the 6th minus 7x cubed minus 8. So, obviously, this particular trinomial doesn't fall yet, does not yet fall on sum or difference of 2 cubes. But, you can notice here na, ano siya, pwede nating i-test if it is a perfect square trinomial. Or, if it can be the special case of trinomial, which is equivalent to product of 2 binomials, diba? Kasi, pwede tayo mag-isip ng factors ng 8, ng negative 8 na ang sama ay negative 7. That's obviously negative 8 and positive 1. Negative 8 and positive 1. So, ang gagawin mo lang is take the square root of the first term. X to the 6, ang square root niya ay x cube. Kasi kung square root, you divide by 2, diba? Divide by 2. So, x cube, do. Okay. And then you have negative 8, tsaka positive 1. Diba? Kasi ito, negative 8, pag pinag-add, negative 7. And then, as you can see, nung ma-result natin siya into product of binomials, both binomials happen to be a difference of cubes and the other one is a sum of cubes. So, doon natin i-apply yung ating formula. So, for the first term first, let's start with this one first. Dito muna tayo kay x cubed minus 8. That would be x minus 2, right? Cube root of the first term, cube root of the second term, copy the sign. Multiply that 2, square the first term, so that's x squared. Opposite the sign, so plus, product of the 2. That's 2x, plus, square the second term, that's 4. And then we move over to the next term, which is x cubed plus 1. So you get there, cube root of x cubed is x, cube root of 1 is 1. Okay, copy the sign, which is plus. Tapos, multiply that 2, the square of the first term, that's x squared. Opposite this sign, so minus, okay, product nilang dalawa. So, that's x. Plus, square the second term, which is 1 pa rin. So, if you're going to write this properly, ang factored form niya would be x minus 2 times x plus 1 times x squared plus 2x plus 4. Hindi na natin mapafactor yan. Factored na yan. Or prime factor na yan. So, you have times x squared minus x plus 1. So, inuna lang natin yung mga simpler terms sa unahan. And then, the trinomials next. Okay? So, this is our answer. 2 factor number 4. Which is x to the 6 minus 7x cubed minus 8. Okay? So, this example simply showed na halimbawa nag-factor ka, tapos napansin mo na yung remaining, yung factor, yung finactor mo or yung sagot mo can still be factored. You have to continue factoring until you get all the factors as prime factors na. Okay? Next. Yan. Meron din tayong tinatawag na sum and difference of 2 odd primes. So, that's letter G. This is what? The 8. Method of factoring. So, you have sum and difference of 2 odd primes. So, yung sum and difference of 2 odd primes, this is almost similar to the sum and difference of cubes. Kasi, di ba si cube, ano siya, odd din siya. And prime number din siya, si 3. So, if the exponents are prime numbers or odd numbers, pwede mo siyang i-factor out in this formula. So, I'm not gonna write it anymore. I'll just explain na ang mangyayari po dito is, let me explain the formula. So, ang gagawin nyo dyan is, if you have 2 odd primes where n refers to the odd exponents, if you have x raised to n plus y to the n, okay, to factor this, you get the nth root. Okay, you get the nth root of the term. So, this will be x, copy the same sign plus, and then nth root of y to the n, that would be y, which is similar to what we did with cubes. Okay? Pero this time, what we're going to do is, start with yung, kung saan natin i-multiply yung binomial natin is, the first term raised to an exponent lesser than 1 than the given. So, if this is n, the exponent would be n minus 1. So, if this is 5, this will be 4. Okay? As in the example, tingnan nyo to, yung example number 1 niya. Yung example number 1 niya is that, if you have x to the 5th plus or minus y to the 5th, para ma-factor mo yan, get the 5th root of x to the 5th, that's x. Get the 5th root of y to the 5th, that's y. Okay? Kung ano yung sign na given dito, yun din. So, x plus y. And then, you start the product, the other factor with the first term raised to an exponent lesser than 1 than the given. So, kung 5 yung given, we'll start at 4. Okay? Tapos, okay, salitan ha, salitan. So, kung ito ay plus, salitan po, magiging minus, plus, etc. Okay, so kung positive to, so kung plus to, you start with minus muna. Okay, this should be correct. This should have been corrected. So, that's it. Dapat minus yun sa ibabaw and then plus sa ilalim. Kasi ganito yan eh, ganito ibig sabihin yan eh. If you have x to the 5th plus y to the 5th, ganito itsura niya, x plus y. Eh, di ba pag positive yung binomial mo, saliitan, negative yung middle term. So, mayayari, saliitan dito sa odd primes. So, that would be x to the 4th minus, so, ang kasunod niyan is the same variable. So, x pa rin. Babawasan mo lang ng isa pa. So, cube na siya. Pero this time, sasama na yung second term. Pero increasing naman siya. So, ito magiging papasok naman si y. Parang anong nangyari dito, you have x raised to n minus 1, pero y raised to 0. Okay? Tapos, you have minus x raised to n minus 2. Babawasan mo ng isa pa. Pero, dadagdagan mo naman si y. Magiging 0 plus 1. Okay? Plus, saliitan kasi saliitan. Plus, so, aring magiging x squared kasi pababa si x. Pero, pa-increase si y. Y squared. Sunod. Minus x y cube. Okay? Until such point, you reach you reach a point wherein, isan lang yung variable. Okay? So, magiging plus na to, magiging 0 na to, so ibig sabihin 1 na siya, di ba? I mean, x raised to 0 na siya dito. And then, madadagdagan si y ng isa pa. So, y to the 4th. Yun yung sagot natin. This one. Okay? Pero kung ang given sa atin is x to the 5th minus y to the 5th, sa sign lang naman mag-iiba eh. So, ito yung magiging x minus y. Pero this time, lahat positive. Nakagaya ng ginawa natin sa cubes. Diba pag negative yung binomial, lahat ng katabi positive na. Kapag positive yung binomial, sa liitan, positive, negative, positive. So, ganun din dito. So, ito magiging x to the 4th. Diba, babawasan mo ng isa ito. Okay, pero positive na lahat. Plus x cube, papasok ko yung second term. Increasing naman siya. Plus x squared, y squared, plus x, y cube, plus y to the 4th. Yun, until you reach the same degree with the first term. Okay, let's try that to number 2. Okay, so for number 2, you have 128 minus x raised to 7. Okay, so ibig sabihin, we're working with 7th root. So let's check with our calculator, what is the 7th root of 128? So 7th root of 128, that gives us 2. Okay, which means, you have here 2 minus x multiplied by, so we started with the 7th power. Okay, you will continue with 2, okay, raised to 6. Diba kasi ito, 2 raised to 7 to eh. Minus x raised to 7. So, you'll start with 2 raised to 6. Okay. Pag minus, plus lahat. So, plus 2 raised to 5. Decreasing, pero increasing yung kabila. X. Okay. Plus 2 raised to 4, x squared. Plus 2 cube x cube plus 2 squared x to the 4th plus 2x to the 5th okay, plus x to the 6th. Mawawala na yung 2 kasi 2 raised to 0 na siya eh. Diba? Yun yung sagot natin. Pero syempre, you have to expand this or simplify 2 raised to 6. Diba? That will give you 2 minus x times 2 raised to 6 is 64. Okay, plus 2 raised to 5 is 32, x, plus 2 raised to 4 is 16, x squared, plus 2 cube is 8, x cube, plus 2 squared is 4, x to the 4th, plus 2x to the 5th, plus x to the 6th. This will be our answer. Okay? Pwedeng constant, pwedeng may constant. Okay, next. Let's try with number 3. Number 3, you have 243 x raised to 15, okay, plus 32 y raised to 10. So, ano po ang gagawin natin kapag yung odd exponents magkaiba? Diba? 15 yung isa ay 10. Pero mapapansin natin dito na ang common kumbaga least common multiple nila would be 5, 'di ba? So if we try to factor out 5, ibig sabihin kukunin natin yung 5th root. Halimbawa, kung kukunin natin yung 5th root of each term, kunin natin yan sa calculator natin. So what is the 5th root of 243? Shift 5th root ng 243, that gives you 3. So, mayayari dito is, you will get 3 x raised to 3 quantity raised to 5. Kumbaga, fifth root muna natin para lang makita nyo na we can represent two terms with different exponents in the same power, in the same odd prime, para magamitan mo siya nung formula. Okay? Kasi ito, pag nag 3 raised to 5 ka, that's 243. Pag nag-x cube raised to 5 ka, it will result to x raised to 15. So, plus, kunin natin yung 5th root ng 32, that's 2. So, 2 y squared, quantity raised to 5. Diba? That gives you 2 raised to 5, that's 32. And then y squared, that's raised to 5, that's 10. So, ang technique lang is, kukuhanin nyo yung least common multiple ng dalawang exponents if they are different. Okay? Tapos, yun yung ilalabas nating exponent. So, kumbaga, if you found that 5 is the common multiple, the least common multiple of 15 and 10, then you're going to take the fifth root of each terms para maging ganito yung itsura niya. Kasi kung ganito na yung itsura niya, ibig sabihin, kapares na siya ng formula Kasi ito yung formula Naka x to the n, y to the n tayo. Dapat yung dalawang terms mo raised to the same exponent. So we did. They are now both expressed as powers of 5. Or as raised to 5. Diba? So ang gagawin lang natin dito is, okay, para ma-factor natin to, get the fifth root of the first term. So that's obviously 3x cubed. Okay, copy the sign plus. Fifth root of the second term, that's obviously 2y squared. Okay, and then, dito papasok yung tricky part. Okay, let me use a bracket for that. So let me just move this for a little bit. Okay, so we started with fifth power ha. So we will start with the first term, that's 3x cubed. Pero, fourth power na. Okay, if this is plus, salitan sa right side. So minus, get the first term again, 3x cubed, pero cube na, pababa yung exponent niya. And then, multiply that with the second term, 2y squared. Okay, plus, continue lang natin ang paggawa. That would be 3x cubed squared times 2y squared, squared na. Bababa si first term, tataas si second term. Okay, minus, you have 3x cubed, so we have 4, 3, 2. So, 1 na yung exponent na to. And then you have 2y squared. We started with 0, 1, 2. So, exponent na natin ay 3. And then plus, until such time, maalis natin yung first term. So, mawawala na si first term on this next term. Matitira sa atin si 2y squared, pero raised to 4 na. Yan. Ito ngayon yung sagot natin, pero we'll just simplify that. So, ang magiging sagot natin for the factored form of the given would be 3x cubed plus 2y squared. Okay, multiplied by, so we just get our calculator to simplify. So that's 3 raised to 4. So you get 81. X raised to 12. So that's 3 times 4 for the exponent. Ito. Okay. Minus, you have 9, di ba? Ah, sorry. Cube ba to? 3 cubed, so you get 27 times 2. So you have 54. X raised to 6. Don't forget that. We multiply, x raised to 9, sorry. X raised to 9. Do not forget to multiply your exponents. Ito yun, 3 times 3. Okay? And you still have y squared. Okay? Plus, you have 3 squared, that's 9. 2 squared, that's 4. So, 9 times 24. 36, di ba? 9 times 4. Sorry, 9 times 4. So, that's 36. Okay, and then you have x raised to 6. And then, y to the 4th. Okay. Minus, let me write that below. So, minus, you get 8 times 3. So, 24. Okay, x cubed, y raised to 6, di ba? X cubed, y raised to 6. Multiply mo to. Okay, and then finally, you have plus 2 raised to 4, that's 16. Okay, 16, y raised to 8. Yun. This will be our answer for number 3 example. Okay, so that's how you do your odd primes. Okay, and then we also have, I'll not anymore elaborate this. So, H, you have sum and difference of even powers naman. Kasi with even powers, it's not easy for us to identify them. Pag kailangan natin silang i-factor, or sometimes it's not needed naman. So, ang nangyari lang dito is, you have x to the 4th minus y to the 4th. This will show you that, Okay. This will show you that you have a difference of squares, diba? So, if you have x to the 4th minus y to the 4th, x to the 4th minus y to the 4th, balik ka lang dun sa difference of squares. That will give you square root of the first term, that's x squared. Okay? Square root of the second term, that's y squared. Okay? And then you multiply to the same sets of variables. Kasi di ba pag difference of squares, magiging sum and difference siya. Product of the sum and difference. And then you will notice that this one is not anymore factorable. So you get x squared plus y squared. Pero the other term, x squared minus y squared, is still factorable. Papasok lang ulit si difference of squares sa kanya. So that would be x plus y, x minus y. Kaya you have this answer. Now, going to the next example, you have there x to the 6 minus y to the 6. So, ganun ulit. Difference of squares, di ba? So, if you take the square root, that would be x cubed, y cubed. And then you'll get positive, multiply to the same two terms, pero negative naman. And then with this, magre-result siya sa sum and difference of cubes. Tapos, i-expand mo na lang ulit using the formula for sum and difference of cubes po. Okay? Next is, yan, the last one is factoring by grouping. So, what's this? HI. Okay. Letter I is factoring by grouping. This is not usually used. Hindi siya palaging ginagawa. Pero, swerte mo kapag na-identify mo na pwede mo pala siyang gamitin, ano? Kasi, it really simplifies the given if you know how to factor by grouping. So, factoring by grouping, ibig sabihin, you're going to group the terms together and then find out if there's anything common between them and then group and then factor the similar terms. So, parang nangyari, let's say, for example, the given in the formula is you have ax plus ay plus bx plus by. What you can do here is, number one, since dalawang terms lang, diba, you have two terms with a, and then you have two terms with b, pwede mong i-group yon. So, kung i-group ko yon, I will put together ax plus ay, tsaka bx plus by. And in that case, in every term, pwede kong i-factor yung common. So, halimbawa, if a factor ko sa first term si a, I will get that as x plus y. And then plus, sa second term, pa-factor ko si b. And then you'll get that x plus y. So, if you're going to consider this as two terms, ito, tsaka ito, itong dalawang terms na to may common sa kanila. Parehas silang may x plus y. So, what you do is, what we did in the first method of factoring, yung common monomial factor, di ba ginawa natin to? You factor out x plus y. So, if I try to factor out x plus y, that means, I will divide this term by x plus y. So, divide ko yan. Kakancel to. I will be left with a. So, I'll multiply this by a. Plus, same sign. This term divide by x plus y get b. So, this is your factored form. Okay? Paano kung halimbawa ganito ko siya ginroup? So, given the same illustration, ax plus ay plus bx plus by, pwede ko po bang i-group yung x and x, y and y? Pwede bang x to x, y to y po ang gawin ko? Oo naman. Pwede mong pagtabihin yung ax plus bx kasi addition naman to. So, pwedeng magpalit-palit ng pwesto. Okay? Tapos, pagsamahin mo yung ay tsaka by, sila yung i-group mo together. So, I'll be grouping this together because they both have y. And then, I'll group this together because they both have x. And then, from there, we factor from each term the common terms. So, here, common si x, I'll factor out x. And then, I'll get a plus b. In the second set, I have y, so plus y, times, factoring that out, I'll get a plus b. Tapos you'll notice na in these two terms, common naman si a plus b. So if I try to factor a plus b dyan, di-divide ko to bale ng a plus b, magiging x na lang siya. If I divide this plus with a plus b, magiging y na lang siya. So that will leave me with x plus y. And this answer is similar to this, nagpalit lang ng pwesto. So, kahit alin, yung i-group nyo together. Okay? Basta, masisimplify nyo ng tama. Okay? Kasi, minsan may mga examples na hindi natin sila pwedeng i-group in any way we like. Kasi may specific groupings na dapat masunod para lang ma-completely simplify natin yung given sa atin. So, you just have to be careful on that. Okay? So, let's try. With number 1. Number 1, you have there ax minus 2bx minus 3a plus 6b. So, if I'm going to group together this 2 kasi may x sila parehas, and then this 2 kasi parehas silang may negative 3. Okay? So, that will leave me with x multiplied by a minus 2b. Okay, then I'll try to factor negative 3 sa second term. So, minus 3 times, I'll get positive a. Positive 6b divide negative 3, I'll get negative 2b. Tapos yun, common dito si negative 2b. So, a minus 2b. So, I'll get a minus 2b. Factoring that out, you get x minus a. This will be our answer. Okay, baka malito kayo bakit ko pinagsama tapos tinanggal ko yung negative? Kasi, bakit ko sinama yung negative sign sa loob ng grouping? Kasi kapag inalis mo yung negative sign, kailangan i-factor mo din si 6b ng negative 1. Kasi parang nangyari, nilabas mo yung negative sign out of the parentheses. So, you factor that out, ha? Okay. Next, number 2. So if I have x to the 5th minus x cubed plus x squared minus 1, okay, you can see that here, x cubed is common. So if I try to factor x cubed from that, I will get x squared minus 1. Okay, plus, grouping this together, that gives me x squared plus 1 din. Minus 1. Diba? And then in these two terms, common si x squared minus 1. Then I can factor that out as x cubed, okay, plus 1. And since you have your difference of squares, dito, pa-factor natin siya as x plus 1 tsaka x minus 1. While this one is the sum of cubes. So, if-factor natin siya as x plus 1, diba? Tanda? And multiply that with yung formula natin for the sum of cubes. So, square the first term. Okay, salitan ng sign, minus, kasi positive to. Okay, minus product nilang dalawa, x times 1, so that's x, plus square the second term, that's 1. So, this will be our factored form. Okay, or you can write that as x plus 1 squared, kasi parehas to eh. X minus 1 times x squared minus x plus 1. This is our answer. Okay, number 3. You have there rs squared minus s minus r squared s plus r. Okay? So, maraming r dito. Okay, so pili lang kayo kahit alin naman pwede. So, let's say I group this and then I group this. So, pag negative yung preceding sign, huwag nyo siyang alisin from the from the grouping symbol. Dapat nasa loob siya ng grouping symbol para hindi kayo malito. Okay? So, here common CS. So, that will give me rs minus 1. Okay. Tapos here, common si R. And then, I'll remove the negative sign na rin para mag-negative to. So, ang mangyayari dyan, if I factor out negative R, okay, I will be left with positive RS. And then, this will be positive R minus negative R. So, that's positive R divide negative R. That's negative 1. Okay, para makita mo na parehas to. So, you can factor that out, RS minus 1. And that will result to S minus R. This is our answer. Okay, so madali lang siya. As long as you can identify na you have to group them para ma-simplify or ma-factor natin siya. So, it's very important with factoring na alam niyo yung special products nyo kasi yun yung makakatulong para madali nyo ma-identify if the terms can be factored or not. Okay? So, yun. Other than that, medyo complicated na yung ibang styles ng factoring pero most likely ito na lahat yun. Okay, you just have to practice on this because you really need this in differential calculus. Okay, so to practice on that, okay, and for me to check if you learned it, okay, you have this 10 questions, which again will serve as your chapter exercise for chapter 2 of Algebra, Special Products and Factoring. So I'll be asking you to submit this through our LMS again. Okay, you just have to check yung Algebra chapter activities, nandun yung Dropbox kung saan isasubmit nyo tong problem na to. So let me just enlarge this so that you see the questions. So, yan. Ito yung ating problems for the chapter exercise on special products and factoring. Okay? So, again, my presentation is from SlidesGo. If you have any question, yan, go to our Facebook group. I'll be posting a discussion there, or I'll be posting inquiries sa inyo kung meron. I'll be collecting inquiries sa inyo and then I'll be answering you through the comments. Okay?